Bullpen with Adam the Bull. Yes, indeed, we start off another week. And let me tell you something. I know it's a slow week. It's All-Star Week. Baseball All-Star Week is traditionally the deadest week in the sports calendar. But we have no time for that nonsense here in the bullpen because I got plenty to get to on this Monday, and none of it has anything to do with the All-Star game. Zero, zilch, zip. I will get to the Guardians later in the show. The ESPN, we've been talking about this on the podcast. We've been talking about it on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. ESPN released their top 10 ranked tight ends. Again, it's not their list, but well, it is their list, but it's based on rankings from NFL players, coaches, executives, and scouts. They released their tight ends. Did David Njoku make the top 10? We'll get to that. A former Browns player retires. One of the few good players they drafted, and then they let him get away. Plus, a report from Mary Kay Cabot over the weekend about the Browns' plan at quarterback. We will get into that all coming up. It's the Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Podcast is not for the faint of heart.
And I do think it's time for the Browns to move on.
It's not for those who ride the fence.
He's proven nothing.
But if you're looking for someone who tells it like it is about Cleveland sports,
everybody does fandom their way.
You've come to the right place.
I don't think he's any good.
It's time for the Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Bow, 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 bow. Bow, 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 bow. All right, everybody, welcome back. It's, again, a Monday edition of the Bullpen. I want to let you folks know and that today's edition of the Bullpen is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Bet Online, where the game starts. And where do we start? Well, I'll tell you where we start. We start with being around town. So, for whatever reason, maybe it's because I'm doing a TV show now. Like, I feel like most people that listen to my radio show, that listen to Bull and Fox for the 10-plus years we did the show, I feel like a lot of people in town knew my face, but not everybody because it's a radio show, right? And I would get recognized out and about, but a lot of times I would get recognized as much for my voice if I happen to be somewhere as my face. And lately, I feel like I've been getting recognized more. Maybe it's just a coincidence that I'm doing the TV show now, or maybe it's just a prisoner of the moment and it feels like that. But lately, I've been running into a lot of people that know who I am. And I don't say this to brag. I say this because I just found it interesting. And it's going to take me to my first point that I'm sure a lot of people in this business can relate to. And if you're doing your own podcast, and I know there's a lot of people in Cleveland, a lot of great fans here that do their own podcasts. I've been on some people's local podcasts. So you can probably relate to this too. Especially if you're doing a video version of your podcast, or if you're in the entertainment industry in any way, no matter how big or how small, local or national, you'll relate to what I'm going to get to in a moment. But I first of all, when I do run into people, it's always nice. You know, sometimes on Twitter, people will be nasty. They won't like something I say or politics or whatever it might be. And people can be ugly sometimes on Twitter. That's not the majority. That's a small minority of people that are jerks. In person, it'll be 11 years next month that I'm working here in Cleveland and living here in Cleveland. And I've only had one bad encounter with a fan in 11 years. And I've probably had, hundreds and hundreds of people that have said hello or I've met or whatever. Maybe 1,000, maybe 2. I don't know. I couldn't even tell you how many people I've met over the years. And there's only one bad encounter, and that was at a radio remote broadcast. And this one guy was a real jerk. But besides that, it's always been nice interactions. And I've had some awesome interactions. I just wanted to say a shout out to anybody I've run into recently, especially because people have been so nice. I feel like whenever I go out to eat, I run into somebody. Whenever I'm at the supermarket, where I took my son on a Sunday morning to go to learn how to skate, this great program in Lakewood, which was really cool. Because my son all of a sudden is interested in hockey, and hockey is just something that's like not on my radar. And I met Russ Sinkovich today, who was a longtime player for the Monsters, and he runs this really cool program, the Ohio Hockey Project, and it's out of the ice arena in Lakewood, which the name of it is, oh man, what's it called again? Winter Haven. I think it's Winter Haven. Anyway, I had reached out to the guys who run the youth program in Rocky River, and in Rocky River, the ice is melted for the summer because there's like camps and stuff, and they pointed me to Russ, and I met Russ today. He worked with my son. Well, he not just with my son. It was a class for kids that are learning how to skate, and they did such a great job. It was such a great atmosphere. I met his wife, who was really nice as well. I met some other fans. It was just really cool. It was a good atmosphere. I got to say, I'm kind of rambling a little bit about personal stuff. I hope you don't mind, but it's really, I don't know what's happened, but over the last few months, I have felt more a part of the community than I ever have. Like, I always felt a part of the community. I felt like, I've said for years, I'm a half Clevelander, right? I'm a mutt. I grew up in New York. It's always going to be part of who I am, and I love where I'm from. And I'm not going to dismiss New York. I don't have any desire to live back in New York. I mean, the only thing my wife and I miss from New York is some pizza and some close friends and family. Everything else I don't miss. But something over the last couple of months, I don't know what it is. I'm in a very good mood. It's the best mood I've been in a while, and I like having my afternoons free when the show's over. And I've just felt really a part of the community. I feel like in the last couple of months, I felt more like someone from Northeast Ohio than ever. I don't know what it is. I can't really explain it. Maybe it's the involvement I've had in the Little League and meeting some new people there. I've just met a lot of new people lately. And so I'm just feeling I'm very emotional. I'm very emotional about this. And I'm feeling really good about being a part of the community. And it was just another great community experience. It wasn't in Rocky River. It was in Lakewood, but I lived in Lakewood when I first moved here. I think Lakewood's a great town. And I've just met so many great people overall in my 11 years here. I've met so many great people. And, both in my personal life and as a sports broadcaster, sports TV guy, sports podcaster now, along with TV. And I've just met, and I feel like lately, over the last few months, between the TV show, getting to know all the people working there, both in front of the cameras and behind the scenes, getting to know, like, I knew Garrett Bush and I knew each other, but I've really gotten to know Garrett well. I've gotten to know Jay. I barely knew Jay, and I've gotten to know him well. I had met Mike Polk once, and he and I actually had a really great conversation on the phone over the weekend. Getting to know Brad Sellers better. I knew Brad a little bit. I didn't know Tyvis Powell at all. And certainly all our behind-the-scenes people, the ones like Mike Lucas or Mikey McNuggets, as you know him, and Anthony and the others, and Steve Becker, our executive producer. I mean, I've just gotten really tight with these people in a short period of time, and it's really nice. And it doesn't mean I don't love my old friends. Still love Dustin, still love Keith, and all those guys. We'll be close forever, but it's just my group of people has expanded, and then I've just met so many really cool fans and made some new friends between, other dads and moms at Little League, and that was such a great experience. I really, it meant a lot to me to coach those kids, and, even besides my son, I'll be following all those kids, in their careers, in their baseball life, and I'll just, be interested to see how it's going for them, and, I don't know. I know I'm rambling a little bit here, and maybe you're like, come on, get to the football, whatever, and I will in a little bit. I just, and I'll get to my point that I wasn't expecting to, I didn't plan to talk about this, but, I'm just kind of rolling here, and I don't know. I just feel really good, and I've appreciated all the people I've met. I was talking to another dad at hockey today, and his son was like really awesome on the ice, and he told me that his son just learned a year ago, and it gave me, made me think, oh, my son could be skating like that a year later. So, again, shout out to Russ Sinkovich and the and Russ. I pronounce it. If I'm screwing up your last name, I apologize. He's just doing a great job with that program. I appreciate that he invited me to bring my son, And I think they did a great job. It was awesome. And I'm trying to get my son. My son's interested in getting into wrestling, so we're meeting some new people in that vein and the baseball. So it's just really awesome. And the reason I went down the road of meeting fans before I got on this long-winded personal stuff is that often when I meet a fan of the show, the radio show, the new TV show, the new podcast, I often get this question. Right now it happens to be about Deshaun Watson, but this same type of question always happens, just maybe a different subject matter. Somebody asked me today, I was in Heinen's, and I know the guys behind the fish counter there a little bit. One of the guys in the fish department said to me, so what do you really think is going to happen with Deshaun Watson here? And I think it's funny because a lot of times when I meet people in person, they think, and maybe it's been you, think that I or somebody else may be holding some stuff back that we're not sharing on the air. If I had real insight, like if I really knew how many games Deshaun Watson was going to be suspended for, trust me, I'd be crowing about it on the air because you know me, I love being right. Now, if you're fair about it, you know that I'm also honest. When I am wrong, I'll admit it. I'll throw myself under the bus. But I love being right, so I could brag about it. And if I knew how many games he was being suspended for, I would no doubt share it with you. I wouldn't save it for a private conversation off the air. But I just think it's really funny that people, and I know this happens to other people in the business as well. I just think it's really funny. So, all right, I'm going to take a break. When I come back, I will have some on Deshaun Watson. An interesting nugget this weekend from Mary Kay Cabot on what the Browns are going to do at quarterback if Deshaun Watson gets suspended. I'm going to talk about a former Brown that recently retired and a current Brown, whether or not he made the tight end top 10 on ESPN's rankings. Plus the Guardians later in the show as they hit as we mentioned, the All-Star break. That's all coming up. It's the Bullpen with Adam the Bull. But first, folks, I want to tell you that betonline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including the playoffs for any sport, including Major League Baseball, which we'll get to here eventually. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. It's that simple. Why would you choose anywhere else? Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, so as I just told you before the break, I don't know how many games Deshaun Watson is going to be suspended. I haven't been keeping information hidden. I guess if I was, I probably wouldn't admit it. There'd be some weird reason why I had to keep it hidden, but I give you my word that I really don't know for sure. And nobody knows. And by the way, if anybody tells you they know right now how many games Deshaun Watson is getting suspended, they're probably lying. Now, again, I don't know that for a fact. I guess it's possible that somebody's got a connection to this judge, but knowing her about her credentials and knowing that she hasn't made a decision yet, I find it hard to believe. So any report you see that claims they know how many games that Deshaun Watson is being suspended for, I think you should assume it's crapola. Doesn't mean they won't end up being right by guessing and saying they knew, but you should assume the report is crapola. So we wait. But what we think we know, I guess, is that he will be suspended for some amount of games. I think we all find it unlikely that he misses no games. Well, Mary Kay Cabot had a column, Cleveland.com, over the weekend. The headline was 30 of Deshaun Watson's accusers settled claims against Texans, 4 remaining cases against Watson to be tried in the spring, Tony Busby says, which, of course, is just Tony Busby trying to pressure, I assume, trying to pressure Deshaun Watson and Rusty Hardin to settle those final cases, because I doubt he wants this to go to court. He probably wants to try to get it settled. However, in the article, which was mostly about those court cases, Mary Kay dropped a little nugget later in the article. She says, not that this is a huge surprise, but she's, Mary Kay is as connected as any of the Browns beat reporters. And so the fact that she says this, even though it's kind of not a big part of her article, I do think it's worth talking about. She says, with training camp beginning July 27th, which, of course, what today? The 18th, I think. So 9 days. So it is the 18th, which means it's my wife's birthday. That's right. So happy birthday to my beautiful bride, Elizabeth, who is probably not going to listen to my podcast today. But in case she does, happy birthday, honey. And I'm taking her out for dinner tonight. It's going to be a fun night. And anyway, happy birthday. I love you. But getting back to Deshaun Watson, so training camp 9 days away. Mary Kay says, the Browns are hoping for a decision sooner than later so they can plan accordingly. Although, as we know, this is my commentary, not from Mary Kay's article, it's become very clear Judge Robinson doesn't care about the NFL calendar. Back to Mary Kay, what she writes. If Watson is out for a lengthy period of time, they will sign a quarterback to back up interim starter Jacoby Brissett. She also says there's a growing sentiment within league circles that Watson will play at some point this season, despite the NFL arguing for an indefinite suspension of at least a year. So there you go. Yeah, that's been the way the wind seems to be blowing. But again, we don't know. We are all speculating. I don't even know why we all think that. It's maybe becoming groupthink. However, the thing I wanted to dive into in her column is that she says the Browns will bring in another quarterback, which seems obvious. The question is, she says in the article it'll be to back up Jacoby Brissett, which would make you think that they will not go the Jimmy Garoppolo route, because if you were going to go the Jimmy Garoppolo route, they wouldn't be backing up. I assume he would start. I guess you don't know. I guess, who knows? Anything could be possible, but she seems to think it'll be a backup. Again, she's pretty plugged in. And so in terms of free agents, well, here are some of the names that I saw today. Cam Newton, A.J. McCarron, Mike Glennon. It's slim pickings out. I think Deshaun Kaiser is available, probably Brandon Whedon as well. It is slim pickings out there. Josh Dobbs has spent some time in the league and would remain on the team as one of the quarterbacks. But it would make sense that if Deshaun Watson is going to miss 6 or more games, that they would go, I think if he's going to miss the season, that's when you'd be more likely to go after Garoppolo. But if it's 6 to 8 games, something like that, or even 4 games, why not bring in one of these veterans that are free agents? Why not sign a Mike Glennon and A.J. McCarron and Cam Newton? Now, maybe those guys aren't any better than Josh Dobbs. To be fair, Josh Dobbs has barely played. Mike Glennon, A.J. McCarron, Cam Newton. At this, obviously Cam Newton was a great player. He's been lost the last 3 years. The other 2 guys have never been any good. So, who knows? Maybe Dobbs is better, but at the very least, at least those guys have played significant time in the league. And so, you need another quarterback anyway if Watson gets suspended. I would think they'd bring in one of those guys. I would trade for Garoppolo even if Watson's suspended for 6 games, but I bet they won't do that. I think they could go down that road if he's suspended for the season. I know that we're all feeling like that's not going to happen, but we don't know until we know, right? One other thing on the free agency, in terms of those guys, Cam Newton, Mike Glennon, A.J. McCarron, I don't know. You can just put the 3 names in the hat or however else you want to throw in that mix. I don't know if it makes a difference. Obviously, Cam Newton has by far the best track record, but he's been so bad the last few years. I don't know that they want to go down that road. Mike Glennon's played more than A.J. McCarron over the years. He's pretty awful, but I don't know. Maybe they'd go down that road. I'm trying to think of connections to Stefanski. Did Mike Glennon play in Minnesota? I can't remember. I don't think so, but anyway. But bringing one of those guys in would make at least some level of sense. One other free agent note. Last week, Tyler Dragon of USA Today claimed the Browns have some interest in Ndamukong Suh. I think it would make some sense. However, Mary Kay Cabot has refuted that report, and again, she's pretty plugged in with the Browns, so I'm going to lean with her on this one. She says the Browns are not interested in Suh. If she's saying that, that's probably true. Now, things could change, certainly, but, it doesn't look like it's going to go down that road. A couple other things, and then we'll get to the Guardians as well. So, ESPN has been putting out their top 10 lists based on rankings, combined rankings from coaches, players, scouts, executives from NFL teams. We've talked previously on the podcast and or on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show about the quarterback list, about the wide receiver list, about the guard list, about the running back list. I think the tackles are coming out, but the Browns won't have anybody. Well, probably not. Conklin's been too hurt the last couple of years. And we'll talk about it. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a little later. But the top 10 tight ends list came out, and I didn't think that David Njoku would be on the top 10 list because I do not think he's a top 10 tight end, and he was not on the list, although it is possible he could get there. I mean, if it all comes together for him, it's possible he could get as high as 7 or 8 maybe by the end of this year, but going into the season, he doesn't deserve to be in the top 10. Number 10 is Hunter Harvey, formerly of the Chargers with the Patriots last year, but he did make the honorable mention list along with Mike Gesicki, Pat Freiermuth, and Zach Ertz. So looks like they put him 4th on the honorable mention, so maybe he finished 14th on this list. Now, with the money they paid David Njoku, he better be better than the 14th tight end in the NFL. It's not like it's a deep position. It's not wide receiver, running back, or quarterback. There's not a lot of good tight ends. If David Njoku ends up 14th, in other words, middle of the pack tight end this year, that's a huge waste of money. He better be top 10 by the end of the year. He's the 6th, 7th, 8th tight end by the end of the year. He's still probably not worth the money, but okay, I can live with that. That's all right. But it better not be 14. I don't want him middle of the pack with the money they paid him. One other thing on the Browns. Over the weekend, former Browns offensive lineman Mitchell Schwartz announced his retirement. He didn't have a long career. Obviously, he had some injuries late in his career that sidelined him. But I'll never forget when this guy was a rookie with the Browns, and I was like, man, this guy's a really good player. And then the Brown and a couple things. Number one, we had a couple of guys who, I don't want to say sports talk show hosts because they really, they were clowns who ripped Mitchell Schwartz quite a lot, made fun of him. I could get into why one of those guys did it, but I'll just kind of leave it there because they're not worth talking about. But I think anybody with a brain knew that Mitchell Schwartz was going to be a really good player. He struggled a little bit in his early first season, first couple of games, a little. But it was clear from the jump to me that he was going to be good. He became one of the best guards in football. And one of the worst moves, like when the Browns, before they got to the last few years when they finally started drafting good players. But for my early time here in Cleveland from 2011 to, 16, 17, 18, the Browns drafted a lot of, terrible players. And one of the few picks they got right was Mitchell Schwartz, and then they blew it. They tried to lowball him with an offer. He was going to come back. He wanted to come back, and, he and Joe Thomas were close, and the Browns botched that whole thing. Good thing that regime is now gone. But farewell to Mitchell Schwartz. I thought he was a great player when I first saw him play. He was a tremendous player, a 4-time All-Pro. That speaks to itself. He's not a Hall of Famer, but just a really good quality NFL offensive lineman that the Browns probably should have never let go. Well, definitely at the time should have never let go. All right, another quick break. When we come back, I got to get to the Guardians, who are now on the All-Star break, got rained out yesterday, and we'll talk about where they stand past the halfway point of the season, halfway to August. We'll get to that coming up next, right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. I am back. Here I am. I get some refreshment there, a little water action. So we know the Guardians had been playing very poorly until the last week before the All-Star break. They did split 4 games with the White Sox, followed that up by taking 3 in a row and playing a really great series against the Tigers, in which they outscored the Tigers 20-5. The Sunday game yesterday got rained out, but they do end on a good note. 3 in a row, 5 of 7, 6 of 9, after they had played really poorly before that. And even with all their struggles, they are in a very bad division, and that means they're right there. If you took their same record, if you took them with their record and put them in the American League East, they'd be only a game out of the basement. They would be 17 games out of first place. If you put them in the American League West at 46 and 44, they'd be a third-place team. but they would still be like 12, 13 games out. But they don't play in the American League East, and they don't play in the American League West. And because of that, they have a chance to make the playoffs. Now, very likely, there's only going to be one team coming, even with the 3 wild cards now, there's probably going to still be only one team to make it to the playoffs from the American League Central. Even though the Guardians are only 2.5 games back of the second wild card spot, I still think I'll be surprised if there are 2 American League Central teams. I think the Mariners have won 14 in a row. Or did they? You know what? I can't remember if did they. 14 in a row. That's amazing. They're playing unbelievable baseball. And by the way, they have the longest playoff drought in Major League Baseball. We talked about that with the Browns a lot in the past, but Mariners haven't been in the playoffs since 2001, over 20 years. So, but obviously the entire American League East is 500 or better. The Yankees and the Rays and even the Blue Jays, who fired their manager, Yankees are absurd. They're 36 games over 500. They're going to win. They're going to win the East. The Astros are going to win the West. And then probably between the Mariners, the Rays, the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, I think the Orioles will slip out. You'll get the 3 wildcard teams out of those 4 teams. But the division is still very much up for grabs. Nobody's playing great baseball. None of these teams are very good. They're all, well, I should say they're all mediocre. The Tigers are bad. The Royals are bad. But the other 3 teams are mediocre. The Twins at the All-Star break are 6 games over 500. The Guardians are 2 games over 500. And the White Sox are right at 500. 3 games separates the top 3 teams in this division. The Guardians have played 90 baseball games, 4 less than the Twins because the Guardians got rained out again Sunday. They have had so many rainouts. But so 72 games left on the schedule for the Guardians. They are, even though they're 2 games back of the Twins, they're actually tied in the loss column. The Twins have played 4 more games. And they've won 4 more games, but they've played 4 more games. So the Guardians are right there and have a very reasonable chance to win this division. Again, if they were in any other division, I'd be having a different conversation about the Guardians. But they're not. They're in a winnable division. And once you make the playoffs, even if the Yankees and Astros are far better than the Guardians, the Rays are better, the Blue Jays are probably better, and even Boston's probably better. However, once you punch your ticket in baseball, you've got a chance. You get a few pitchers going, and the Guardians have some pitchers that could do it. Obviously, Shane Bieber coming off his best start. Tristan McKenzie coming off his best start. Those 2 guys lead the way. They can get one more. Right now, I don't trust any of the other guys. But you got 2 pitchers that are really good. If you can get them cooking with a good back of the bullpen, you'll have a chance in the playoffs. Now, do I think the Guardians are going to make a run in the playoffs? No. My buddy Brian Perino from Perino Builders and Remodeling, he texted me yesterday and he goes, "I'll bet you at dinner the Guardians get it to the World Series." And I love him because he is the die-hardest Guardians fan. But I can't take his money. I can't do it. The Guardians are almost not. I mean, the idea that they'd go to the World Series is absurd. But then I said, well, maybe I should bet him because I'm not just taking his money because, as I just said, once you make the playoffs, you have a chance. You always have a chance if you make it. And the Guardians, to me, with 2 weeks to go before the trade deadline, have to be aggressive. They need some additional bats. Nolan Jones has done a great job since coming up from the minors about a week ago. I love him. I was high on this guy for the last couple of years. I'm glad he's finally in the big leagues. I know he's excited. I know his family's excited. I'm excited. A lot of fans are excited. He has been really good so far. But they need more help. We don't know if he's going to keep it up. He's a young player. He's going to go through a stretch where he probably goes like 3 for 30. And we'll be able to ride through that. When you have so many young players, there's going to be the hot streaks and cold streaks. We've talked about it all year long. They need some veteran help. You need another outfielder. I'd love to see them go get a catcher that can hit. Again, I think they're unlikely to go after my guy, Wilson Contreras, because he's a rental. I'd love to see them do it. I don't know what their plan is. They may buy and sell. I think it's possible they trade Plesac. I think it's even possible they trade Bieber, although I think that's less likely. Any of these guys that are not long-term for the roster, and the reality is Bieber's probably not, could be on the block. but I would hope that the Guardians will stay aggressive and take an opportunity to try to win. That doesn't mean blow up your whole system, but be aggressive. The Guardians are so deep. They have to, as a lot of guys that cover the team have said, including my buddy Zach Meisel, including Jason Lloyd, my pal, they have to shake up. The 40-man roster is going to be overloaded next year. They have too many middle infield prospects. They got to move some of those guys anyway. Move them for proven major league talent. It's the way to go. Well, hopefully you've been listening to this podcast. I guess if you weren't, you wouldn't know what I'm saying here, because it is the way to go, is to listen or watch the Bullpen with Adam the Bull. Another way to go is to watch the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. I am very excited about today's edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Who do we got on today's show? We got Aditi, I think, is on today. Yes, she is. So Aditi Kinkhabwala will be on the show. I think we'll probably talk about the tight end rankings. We'll talk about the possibility of a trade. Of course, always we'll talk about the Watson situation, and something I didn't mention today, Juan Soto. I'll mention it right now real quick. Juan Soto reportedly turned down a $440 million 15-year contract from the Nats, which is unbelievable. And it's a report. We don't know for sure that he did. And I got a little spittle on my screen there. I thought you don't want to know that. So we'll get into that as well. That's just nuts. I saw some people, my man Nick Fink, tweeting trade possibilities. I just can't see the Guardians going down the Soto route. I think that's very unlikely. If he gets traded, unfortunately, probably the Yankees or the Mets, even though they're in the division, maybe the Dodgers. It's got maybe the Padres. It's got to be a team. Dodgers and Padres have good farms. Dodgers have so much talent. They have one of the two highest payrolls, and they got a ton of talent. So check out the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Please subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show on YouTube. We are less than 90 subscribers away from 10,000. If we get to 10, we really, our goal is to get to 11,000 by the end of the month. But first, we got to get to 10,000. We're like 80 something away. I'm going to dump chili on the head of our boy Anthony if we get there. So please subscribe if you haven't already to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Make sure you listen to the podcast every day. Also, check out the Locked On Browns podcast with my guy G. Bush, and Jeff Lloyd is on there with him. And also, check me out on Cameo. I did people have been asking me to do fantasy football league videos where I rip up a member of their league. I've done a few of those lately. I love doing the Cameo videos. I'll do almost anything you want. I'm having so much fun with those. And check me out, of course, on Twitter. There you go. There's my Twitter handle. Well, now we got it. At Adam the Bull. Yeah. All right. I'll be back on Tuesday. That's it for now. It's the Bullpen right here with Adam the Bull. See you, everybody.